Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give another minute or so to let some more people file in, and then we can get started. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Carmen, and I am the training coordinator at the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple SBDC helps small businesses start and grow. We provide free one-on-one counseling and a variety of low to no cost webinars. We are proud to be a part of the nationally accredited network of SBDCs with over 1,000 centers across the United States. You have joined us today for legal considerations, business succession. A copy of today's PowerPoint and a link to the recording of this session will be sent out to all attendees. And while all attendees have been muted, we encourage you to post any questions in the chat or Q&A. And now I will turn the floor over to Janelle.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Janelle Payton, and I am the CEO and managing partner of Payton Law. I'm not going to make you read this whole screen. It's just here if you want to take a look at it when you get the PowerPoint presentation at the end of today's broadcast. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I have a bit of experience. I have 20 years of experience in the legal industry already. I hate to say that. I work with all different types of companies and different industries. So today's talk is about business succession and planning for that. And I have helped a lot of people through this process, a lot of businesses through this process, and in all different types of industries. So, so let's jump right in and get into it. So today my goal is to talk about 3 general topics. First of all, what is business succession planning? Let's make sure we're all on the same page and we're starting off from the same place when we're beginning this discussion. The second thing is planning to leave your business. And I look at this as, you are going to leave your business at some point, whether it is on purpose or by accident or, a big, huge drawn out process or something that happens overnight. This is going to happen at some point. So let's plan on what you would prefer that to look like. And then the third thing we're going to talk about is preparing for surprises, because sometimes something happens where you have to or want to leave your business and it's more of a surprise. It isn't necessarily something that you planned for. So hopefully in talking through these 3 different areas, we'll have a pretty good understanding and be able to have a good conversation around what business succession really is. So first topic, what is business succession planning? And if you guys have been on my other webcasts, you know that I like to do fun little quizzes. So the first one for this topic is test your knowledge. The question is, business succession planning is a strategy for changing the leadership in a business. Is that a good definition, do you think, for business succession planning? True or false? And I'll give you a second to think about that. If you want to put your answers in the chat, that's fine too. But this is mostly just for you to test your knowledge. So business succession planning is a strategy for changing the leadership in a business. Generally speaking, I'd say this is true. There are some other things that come into play when we talk about planning for succession, but generally this is a common definition. And if you think about it, really all we're doing is moving leadership of the company. The company will still exist. There are some situations where we may not have it exist, but generally speaking, we would like to move the leadership to someone or something else. So a few examples are, maybe there's a new individual owner. Maybe you're an LLC and you're the only owner, or you have a stock company and you own 100% of the stock and a new owner is coming in. So that's a new individual person that is probably going to work somewhat closely with you to understand the business, and you are going to move it into their hands. Another situation might be a company buys it. So it would maybe not be as different, or it might be similar to if an individual owner is coming in to own it, because you still might be working with the owner or manager of that new company. But in this situation, the company is actually purchasing the shares or purchasing whatever interest you have, or sometimes they're purchasing the assets and kind of merging what you have into what they have, or maybe they could be merging what they have into what you have if you've got the better name brand or something. Some other moves could be you're transferring it to your children or other family members. Maybe you have a niece or a nephew or a grandchild. In this situation, it could be a sale to them. That is very common. It could be partially a gift. It could be a transfer. So there's a couple different ways to think about how we would want to do that, but that is another transition to a different type of new leadership coming on. And in most cases, the children will have an active role in the company already, and it's more transitioning the previous owners out and the new owner or owners in. And the other thing I'll mention here is sometimes we transfer leadership to the employees. And sometimes the children are the employees, but sometimes it's truly an employee. It is someone who is interested in, maybe they've been working there for 20 years, working with you, and they know the business inside and out, and they want to step into the role as owner. And so you're helping them do that. One way that companies do this is with ESOP, which is an employee plan where the employees take ownership of the stock. Those were very in style for a while. Now they're falling out of style because some of the tax strategies work very well, but the actual leadership tends to be a little bumpy along the way. But we can talk about those as well. So, and there's others, but this is a good kind of way to start thinking about what are we actually doing. We are taking a company, we are taking you out of it, or the owners out of it, and we are putting in somebody else to fill that role. And who that somebody else is different, or can be different in different situations. And how you do that is going to be a little bit different as well. So I'll pause for a second and see if we have any questions right now, and then we'll move on to the next topic. Doesn't sound like we have.
Oh yeah, no, I'm so sorry. We have no questions in the chat at the moment.
Okay. So feel free to post questions if you have them. We'll address them at the kind of the end of each slide. Oh, and I forgot to mention, yes, sometimes we end up dissolving the company. So that's less of the transfer in leadership, which is why I do like the definition of business succession planning as a transfer in leadership. But sometimes the best thing to do is to dissolve the company. Perhaps it's selling. I know someone right now is selling off. They had a transportation and vehicle rental business, and they are selling off the assets because it's more valuable to them to just collect the money from selling off of the assets than it is to sell the business and continue with the business. So in that situation, they're selling out the assets, and then the entity that's left will be empty, and then they will dissolve that. So that doesn't exactly fall into the changing of leadership, but it is a plan for business succession. All right, so planning to leave your business. So this is you are recognizing that at some point you are going to step away from the business, and how are we going to make that happen? So here's a little quiz to test your knowledge. I just need to tell my attorney and my financial advisor what I want, and they'll take care of the details. True or false? So this is as easy as, if you figure out, if you know what you want, just let your trusted advisors know what you want, and they will figure it out. True or false on this one, guys? Give me a minute. So I would say this is false. Your attorney and your financial advisor are probably the two most important people to help you figure this out. So you do want to tell them, and you do want to go to them. But as far as taking care of the details depend on what it is you're looking for. So yes, they can take care of things and help you out and help you figure out what needs to be done to get you where you want to go. But you need to be very clear on what it is you're looking for. So we really need to figure out the strategy around the succession for your business. And I like to look at this in sort of 3 steps. One is looking at, what do you have right now? So where are you starting from? What are your goals? And then what are the next steps beyond that? So if we dive into this a little bit more, if you think about what do you have, you're trying to develop not only a valuation for your company, but what does your company, what is the value in your company? Not just a financial dollar, although that is a piece of it. So here we're looking at your assets. We are looking at the income, are you very profitable? Are you a little bit profitable? Are you not profitable? Maybe you're a nonprofit, so you're not supposed to be profitable. That's okay. But we need to figure out where you stand there. Maybe we need to have a valuation done, maybe not. I mean, if you're transferring to your children, do you really need a valuation? I don't know, maybe. Depends on how we want the transfer to go. We've got physical assets. Do you have equipment? Do you have machinery? Do you have vehicles? Do you have ways of producing things that require tangible raw materials, but then also things to put those raw materials, machinery and whatnot, to put those materials together. And then there's intellectual property. Do you have a brand name? Do you have a trademark? Do you have a proprietary method of how you create what you create, or how you service the way that you service? Maybe you are a franchise. Maybe you're a franchisor, maybe you're a franchisee. Either way, we have to look at those intellectual property assets. Maybe you have a license agreement with someone. Maybe you have license agreements with others and they pay you royalties for a piece of what you do or a brand name that you have. So we need to look at all of that. Contracts are assets. Many business owners don't realize this, but those contracts give you the right to collect something. Sometimes they're contracts with employees and they're contracts with independent contractors, but sometimes these are contracts for raw materials, and maybe you have specific terms and conditions in there. You have specific rates, or you have specific pricing that gives you an edge on your competition. That is valuable. That is something valuable. So we need to look at that as well. And then real estate. A lot of people, when they start this process, don't recognize, they know, but they don't recognize that real estate is a large piece of this as well. So I have two companies that I'm working with right now that are both husband and wife teams that are passing the company down to their children, and both of them happen to own the real estate where the company is located. And so part of what we are doing for them, for one, we're still talking through it, but for the other one, we're going to go ahead and do it. The parents are going to sell the business to the children over time, but they're going to hold on to the real estate. They almost have it paid off, so they're going to go ahead and pay it off and rent it back to the business. And that's a valid expense for the business and a write-off for the business then. And then they also retain that income, which is the lease that they have for that business renting that property from them. So that is a whole, that can be a whole mini venture, mini business in and of itself. So we really need to figure out, where are we starting from? What is everything that you have? And does it all transfer together? Or maybe we break it apart. Maybe you actually have two businesses operating as one right now, and you want to sell one, but not the other just yet. Or maybe you have a legitimate business, but it's sitting on real estate, and that real estate you want to hold, but the business you want to sell, or vice versa. Help people sell real estate, and then they become they lease the property from who they sold it to. So there's a lot of different possibilities here, but we need to know where we're starting from. And then the second piece of the strategy are, what are your goals? So I will have people come to me all the time and say, I need X amount of dollars to retire, so I want to sell this for X amount of dollars. Okay, that's a great goal. And that's good that we have it. But what happens is I need to know what is the next step as well. So that's why I ask, what are your goals, but also what are the next steps? So the goal might be, okay, I want to, sell it for X number of dollars so I can retire. Okay, do you need that money all at once? Or would it be better for you from a tax perspective to get it over time? Do we want a buyout method? Do you need that money to live, or is that money all going, to investments and then fun stuff like travel and whatever? Or are you getting out of the business because you want to start a different business? Or is it just that your kids have stepped up so much inside that business that you're ready to let them take control, or at least start taking control? So maybe this is a 5-year plan to transition to the kids. Maybe it takes time. Maybe you need to charge them for it, or charge the business, or maybe you don't. So there's a lot of pieces to this. And it doesn't have to be very complicated, but we need to understand, as your attorneys, and we work hand in hand with your financial advisor or whoever you have working on that side of it. But we need to understand not only where you're at, what the goal is or what the short-term goal is, but also, what do you want this for in the future? Because if you need this to be a lump sum because you're going to go invest in another business, then we need to know that this has to be a situation where someone can either give you the cash up front or we can get an SBA loan started for you. So it's a lot of fun and there's a lot of options, but as you start to think about this, these are the questions I'm going to ask you if you come to me to start talking about it. And these are the questions your financial person is going to start asking you as well, because we want to make sure that we have the facts straight so that we can help you figure out the best way to get to the next piece. So my challenge to you is really to start thinking about these things so that when we do talk, we can have a very good, intelligent conversation. And you can be very clear, at least as clear as you can be, on what your goals are for now. So I'm going to take a break there and see if we have any questions sort of about the planning part of this.
We are currently all good in the chat and Q&A. Suzanne had a quick question about, she said that she is 58 and would like to build succession into her business plan. And this is a broader question, asking if this class will be a thorough list of things that she should consider and ideas for goals that she should set along the way.
So I think we will have part of that for you. I don't know if specifically you're looking for sort of a timeline. We may not have that, but hold tight. And at the end of this, I am going to be sharing a worksheet with you. So we'll go over that at the end, and you'll get that when you get the PDF of this PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you. Besides that, we are all good.
Okay. All right. So the next thing is preparing for surprises. So let's jump right into the little question here. My business is just me, so I don't need a business succession plan. True or false? I get this asked a lot. This happens with small business owners that are just them or just husband and wife. Also for single people running a business, sometimes running a side business, but even for people that have corporations that own all of the stock in those corporations. So my business is just me, or just me and close family members. So I don't need a business succession plan. True or false? So this one you may have guessed is false. And this is the surprise piece. So unpredicted things do happen to us. And I listed some not so happy, well, depending on how you feel about divorce. I've seen both sides. Some things that may happen. Divorce, death, incapacitation, whether permanent or temporary. I've seen people lose their businesses because they had something happen to them that took 3 to 6 months of recovery, and their business just couldn't survive the 3 to 6 months without them. So this succession planning also applies for this kind of event where something went wrong and it's maybe temporary, but what is going to happen, or how is your business going to run if you're not there to run it yourself? So divorce can be messy. We might want to think about that ahead of time. I usually try to talk to my clients that are married about that, and I give them the option to go ahead and really plan for that if something happens, or to not. It's up to them, of course. Death, we don't want that to happen, obviously, but if something would happen to you tomorrow and you are maybe the main income earner for your family, or maybe not the main one, but still a significant portion of what your family needs to survive. If something happened to you tomorrow, what's the plan? Do you have someone that's going to step up? If you do, is it prepared for them so that they can legally do so, and they can go to the bank and act on your behalf, and they can, execute on contracts on your behalf? Do they have that legal authority? Have you given that to them? And then if it's a situation where you need to have someone come in and fill your shoes while the company is being sold or while the family is trying to figure out what to do, it's probably best for your family to have continued income. So there's a lot of insurance types of insurance out there that can help you figure this out, that can provide some money in that bridge period, so that if something happens to you and you are the main person in that business, it can continue to run, or there's enough money to hire a CEO temporarily, or there's enough money to hire a business manager, or whatever the role you fill right now. We can have that filled at least temporarily while we figure out how to sell the company and then give those proceeds to your family. So part of this is really figuring out, if a surprise happens, what can we do ahead of time to make sure that you're prepared for it? And these don't have to be bad things. So good things happen too. I have clients that are, young ladies that end up getting married and having children, and now they can't be as present in their business as they used to be. So they need to figure out what happens when, even on a smaller scale, what happens when they need to take time off for maternity leave? What happens when they need to take time off to deal with the family, deal with the children? So they need to put other people in place. They need to have a plan there so that when they need to pull out suddenly or for a short time or a long time, everyone knows what happens when they need to do that. They know who's in charge. They know who can do what and how to keep the company running. Sometimes it's a better opportunity. I've seen people have to sell businesses relatively quickly because there was a better opportunity. One person I know got a job offer in another country that they could not refuse. So they had to sell their company to be able to accept this other position. I've had people partner outside of their company with other companies, and the other one took off. So the one that they started was still a good, legitimate company, but they needed to figure out what to do with it relatively quickly because the other one was just taking off. And sometimes you just get a great offer to sell. So what are you going to do in that situation? Have you thought about it? Are you ready for it? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Are you ready to walk away from your business? There are plenty of angel investors that gather up smaller businesses and they make offers relatively quickly. They'll gather a bunch up and then make a larger company out of them. And then whatever they do with them, then I'm not totally sure. But, you could get a great offer tomorrow to sell your business. Are you ready for that? Would that work for you? Is that something that, maybe you're planning on retiring soon anyway, so this is the perfect thing to happen? Or maybe you're not quite ready to retire and you're not sure if that's enough money to carry you all the way through to retirement. So sometimes the unexpected happens as well. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. But what is going to happen if the unexpected happens? And part of business succession planning is not only figuring out how you want to leave when you decide it's time to leave, but also how is the business going to continue to run, or what is going to happen if you have to leave or you get taken away and it's a surprise situation. So a lot of that is just working hand in hand with the business owner or owners to understand, okay, well, so-and-so is the next in line. So I would want to give them the power to do A, B, and C. Okay, well, let's just get that into a memorandum for the company. Let's get that into your estate plan if it's going to your children. So part of this is not rocket science. It's just getting it out there and getting it in writing somewhere. And it doesn't even have to be, shared with everybody if it's not time for that yet. But it's getting it worked out in your head and in your mind and in some sort of plan so that when something happens, we know where to go and we know what your wishes are. So I'll take a breather there and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, we are still looking good.
Quiet bunch today.
Yeah, it's dreary out today.
That's true. I usually get more questions than I can handle. Okay, so last question for you. Timing is everything, but it's best to start my plan today. True or false? And yeah, maybe this one's a little fun, little silly, But yes, timing is everything, because you don't know. We just had a whole conversation about unexpected surprises. You don't know when something's going to happen. So it is best to start your plan today, at least start thinking about the things that we talked about earlier in this session. And one of the things I'm going to give to you guys, and this will go out whenever SBDC sends you all of this information, but it is a business succession sort of little guide to your thoughts, really. And it mimics what we just talked about. So you're not going to be surprised by the questions and the statements on it, but it has 3 sections in it. And the first section is just about that leadership, that transfer in leadership. So start thinking about, if you had the choice, which as of now you do, if you have the choice, where would you want your company to go? Are you looking to give it to your children? Are you looking to sell it? Kind of think that through. Think who would be the ideal person or company to take your place when you're ready to let it go. Then the next section is on strategy. So that's a little bit about what we talked about. And it's just prompting you to ask yourself those questions. Where are you right now? And sometimes I like to think about this as a map, old-fashioned map, not GPS, old-fashioned map. You need to know where you want to go, right? But to be able to get there, you need to know where you are, because a map is useless if you have no idea where you are, where you're starting from. So really think about, where am I right now? What are my assets? What do I have? What's valuable? What's not? A lot of cases, there's a lot of valuable things that aren't completely protected yet. So in a lot of cases, clients that are getting ready to sell, we usually take some time, 6 months to a year before they're ready to sell. Make sure their contracts are tight. Make sure their entity formation and corporate documents are together and ready to go. Make sure they've got their systems mapped out. They've got their proprietary processes protected. Make sure they've got their trademarks registered and up to date. Really get everything perfect so that the seller or the potential seller, when they start asking in due diligence for these things, it's all together, it's all there, it's solid, it's ready to go, and there's nothing for them to worry about, so they don't ask as many questions. So, and then you can prove the value, because if you say, oh, my business is worth $5 million, and they say, okay, well, let me see your contracts and your branding and your trademarks, whatever, and you've got nothing to show them, or you have a few rinky-dink documents, that's not going to help you substantiate the $5 million request. But if you send them over a whole packet of, this is all of our proprietary processes, this is our trademarks, this is our branding, this is our marketing strategy. If you've got all of that and you can send it to them, how are they going to argue with your price? I mean, obviously they still can, but it's going to be a much more uphill battle for them to claim that, well, you need this and you need that, so we need to drop the price. No, it's not going to happen. You're going to have the upper hand in that sale. But for your kids, if you're giving it to your kids, don't you want everything kind of cleaned up and ready to hand over to them? So that's another thing to consider too. So where are you now? Figure that out, get it together. What's the goal? And that's more the short term, like, when do we want to sell? How much do we want to sell it for? Are we transferring it? Are we gifting it? What are the tax consequences? Think about all that. And then why? Why are we doing this? What's the future? Are you taking this money and investing in another company? Are you at retirement age and you're just going to go travel the world now? Whatever the goal is, the outcome of the sale could be different depending upon what we want that end life to look like for you. So we really want to be aware of that. And then the third part is a list of assets that you might have. So it's just a little area to start thinking this through, listing out, hey, what do I have? What's important? What's of value? Feel free to throw some prices on there if you think. But if you are looking to sell it, then we would probably want a valuation done so that we could, have a good offer or a good asking price ready to go. So you'll get this. Feel free to take a look at it when you get it. And if you have any questions, I'm going to show you the next page is my contact information. Feel free to reach out. We do a 20-minute consultation. So if you would like one, you can find links on our website or just text the word consult to 484-801-0021 and we'll hook you up with the link to schedule. That's all I have. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But
Right. You may have touched on this briefly, and I looked over the sheet that you're sending out, so I think that will also touch on this question. But Ellen is asking what the first and most important step to take is.
first and most important step, I would say, is thinking about your personal timeline and needs. Because some people, if you're planning, some people are looking to, retire in 5 years. Some are looking in 1 year. Some are pretty far away from it. So figure out kind of where you stand and what you need personally. Also, what you need to live if you do retire. So if you're thinking about that, that would be my recommendation. But in the short term, because surprises happen and unexpected events happen, I would say the first thing to do is, if something happened to you tomorrow, who would you want to take over right now, right this minute? Who would you want to take over? Figure that out, answer that question for yourself. And even though it's maybe temporary and maybe not the best solution or whatever, tell somebody that, write that down somewhere, put it in your estate plan. If you don't have an estate plan, you should probably talk to an attorney about that too. We do those for business owners. So we have a whole little questionnaire. So if you are interested in estate planning, just let us know and we'll send out the questionnaire for you. It's about 10 pages and it's probably more than you need to answer, but we go through any and every possible thing in that to help you out. But really, I would say step one for the unexpected piece is, if something happened to you tomorrow, who would pick up the pieces? Would it be a spouse? Would it be, a brother or sister? Would it be a child? Would it be some employee in the business? Figure that out and start to work towards how that person could pick up that role. Do they need to have access to the banking? Do they need to have access to certain passwords? Do they need something in writing that they can show to the rest of the employees saying, look, I'm temporarily in charge until we get this worked out, so that you can have some flow while stuff's going on that, maybe you need to deal with.
Thank you. I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat, but as we are wrapping up here, everyone may notice I posted a link in the chat. It is for a 1-minute survey about today's webinar. We value your feedback and it is required by our funders so that we can continue to offer these workshops. Oh, and I do see another question. Jessica is asking, do you have a ballpark figure of the cost of evaluation?
So I don't do valuations. I work with your accountant, your CPA, or your financial advisors to figure that out for you. On the lowest end, your accountant can usually give you a general range, and that's usually based on your cash flow and on, some industries generally sell for 1 times cash flow, some sell for 10 times cash flow. It just depends on your industry. So most accountants and CPAs can give you a ballpark figure that way, and it usually doesn't cost you much more than a conversation with your CPA or accountant. But then depending upon the size and complexity of your business and the assets in your business, they can range from, I would say, $1,500 up to $10,000, depending upon how large your company is. So hopefully that's helpful.
And we do have another question in the chat. Ellen mentioned that some SBDCs will provide a valuation. I am not the person to ask on that, but if you want to email sbdc@temple.edu, they'd be glad to answer that question and set you up with someone if that is a service that we do offer. And Ellen is asking, do you have the ability to evaluate and work with intellectual property, or do you have a recommendation for that?
So I'm glad you asked that. My company actually specializes, I would say about 50% of the work that we do is general counsel. So entity formation, contracts, corporate documents, business succession planning, buying and selling, all of that. And then the other 50% is intellectual property. So we do a lot with trademarks, copyrights. We assist with helping with patents. We don't have a patent attorney on staff, but we will help find the right one for you. And then any kind of franchising and licensing and things like that, we help out with as well. And the way that we work is we work on a quarterly basis with our clients. So at the beginning of the quarter or whenever you join, we do a strategy session. And we include the strategy session and all of our talk time in all of our plans. So you're not being billed for phone calls and things like that. And then what we do is each of our plans, and we have a couple different levels, they all include the correspondence, but then the plans include a different amount of billable hours, so work time for us. So if we're drafting something for you or we're researching something for you, we keep track of those hours. So that's how we work with our clients, and it seems to work out very well. And we have a couple different levels. So really all size clients tend to, all size, I'll say small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs we work well with. If you start to get into larger companies that are publicly held or there's SEC regulations, we are not experts at that piece of it. So we step away from that. But any kind of small, medium-sized business, manufacturing companies, service businesses, professional services, we tend to help out a lot with those. And that quarterly seems to work out well. Because what we do in that strategy session is we figure out what is most important to your business over the next few months. And then we work on that for you and with you. And follow-ups, like I said, are all included, but it kind of gives you as the business owner the ability to strategize with us and then let us work on it. And you don't have to worry about it. And then the next quarter or so, we'll figure out what's next and most important.
Okay. I keep saying this and then something else appears, but we are looking good for now. On my end, just a few reminders. You will be getting this PowerPoint, a recording, and a worksheet that goes along with the webinar for today. And please fill out the survey if you have an extra minute. That is everything on my end. Janelle, if there's anything that you would like to say as a final note, I'll pass the floor back over to you.
I would just say thank you guys for joining us. My business, my goal, where I come from is I believe that small business owners and entrepreneurs are really the backbone of our nation. So if there's anything I can do to help you, or if there's, even if I can make an introduction to some person or someone in my network that could help you, let me know. I fully, support small business and medium-sized business. And, I really feel strongly that this is why our country is so great, because we have all of these people working so hard to help us succeed. So SBDC included, they're a great resource. So I'll plug them too. I've used them for some research and marketing and whatnot. So definitely recommend reaching out to them as well for information and for help.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.